It started with a knock. Not the kind you expect when you're half asleep on a Saturday morning, but the kind that changes everything. I opened the door to see her, Elena. Wind-blown hair, sunlit eyes, and a suitcase resting beside her like a declaration of fate. My new stepsister. We hadn't grown up together. My dad had met her mom just 6 months ago on some cruise. They hit it off, got married on a whim, and suddenly, I had a family I hadn't asked for. Elena was part of the deal, flying in from another state to live with us for her final year of college. I thought we'd exchange polite hellos and stay out of each other's way. I never imagined what would happen. She smiled that day. Bright. Innocent. You must be Tyler, she said. Mind helping me with this? Something about the way she said my name made the air shift around me. I nodded, took her suitcase, and led her inside. The days that followed were filled with awkward dinners and careful small talk. Our parents were in their honeymoon phase, cooking together, dancing in the living room, giggling like teenagers. That left Elena and me to navigate our strange new siblinghood alone. We avoided saying the word step. It made things feel more complicated than they already were. At first, we were polite strangers sharing a roof. But the more time we spent together, watching movies, bumping into each other in the hallway, late-night snack raids, the more that line between us began to blur. One evening, about a month in, I found her in the backyard, barefoot in the grass, staring at the sky. I'd never seen anyone look so quiet and full of noise all at once. You ever feel like you were meant for something else? She asked, her voice soft but aching. I nodded. Yeah, all the time. We sat there under the stars side by side, saying nothing more. And yet, everything shifted that night. I began to notice the small things, how she tied her hair up when she was concentrating, the way she laughed with her whole body, how her eyes darted toward me just a second too long. And I hated myself for noticing, because this wasn't supposed to happen. We were step-siblings. Family, in name if not in blood. I told myself it was just the thrill of something new. A crush that would pass. But it didn't. She started leaving notes on the fridge. Silly doodles. Song lyrics. One said, "You look good in blue." I wore blue the next day. Our conversations deepened. She'd open up about her past, how her mom moved around a lot, how she never really had a place that felt like home. I told her about my fear of commitment, how I always kept people at arm's length. One night, the power went out. A storm swept through, knocking down lines. We lit candles and camped out in the living room. Just the two of us. She curled up next to me under the same blanket. Her shoulder brushed mine. Neither of us moved away. You know, she whispered, this is the first time in years I've felt safe. I didn't know what to say. My chest felt tight. My thoughts were a storm louder than the one outside. We fell asleep like that. After that night, we were different. Quieter. More careful. But also more drawn to each other. I'd catch her watching me from across the room. She'd catch me watching her. One afternoon, she walked in on me shirtless, fresh out of the shower. Her eyes lingered. She looked away quickly, but not before I saw the flush in her cheeks. We stopped pretending. Late one Friday, while our parents were out on a weekend getaway, we stayed in. Popcorn. Old movies. Too many blankets on the couch. She rested her head on my chest. I should have pushed her away. But I didn't. She looked up at me, her eyes wide and searching. I could feel her breath. I could feel the space between us shrink. And then it happened. The kiss. Slow. Careful. Terrified. Her lips met mine like they were asking a question neither of us could answer. We pulled away almost instantly. But everything had changed. She whispered, "Tyler, what are we doing?" I didn't have an answer. And that's when the front door clicked open. Our parents were home early. We scrambled apart, hearts pounding, trying to act normal. But nothing felt normal anymore. Because that kiss was no accident. And it wasn't the last. To be continued. The days that followed were unbearable. Every glance we exchanged was filled with questions we didn't dare speak out loud. Every accidental touch sent sparks down my spine. I couldn't forget the way her lips had felt, soft, unsure, magnetic. And judging by the way Elena avoided me with trembling eyes, I knew she hadn't forgotten either. Our parents were blissfully unaware, too caught up in their own world of candlelit dinners and weekend getaways. That gave us time to avoid, time to wonder, and time to feel everything we weren't supposed to feel. One evening, as I stood in the kitchen washing dishes, Elena entered silently. She leaned against the counter, arms crossed, watching me. I could feel the weight of her gaze before I turned. "We need to talk," she said, voice low, almost trembling. I shut the faucet, dried my hands slowly, like I could delay the moment. "I know," I replied. We sat on the back porch, where the crickets sang and the air carried the scent of summer. She sat close, but not too close. "That kiss," she began. "It wasn't supposed to happen." "But it did," I said quietly. "And we both let it." She didn't argue. "I keep telling myself it was a mistake," she said. "But it didn't feel like one." I looked at her then, really looked. The way her brows creased with confusion, how her hands fidgeted in her lap. She wasn't just scared. She was torn. "I know this is wrong," I whispered. "But I've never felt anything more real." Tears welled up in her eyes, but she didn't let them fall. "Tyler, what if we ruin everything?" "We already did," I said, "but maybe it's worth it." That night, we didn't kiss. We didn't touch. But we sat there until the stars disappeared and the sky turned gray. The silence between us wasn't empty. It was full of longing. The next few days were worse. We started avoiding each other entirely. She left for classes early. I stayed out late. Our conversations, if any, were short and forced. Our house became a prison of things unsaid. Then one night, I found her crying in the garage. "Elena." I stepped closer, careful not to startle her. She looked up, tears streaking down her cheeks. "I can't do this, Tyler. I can't pretend like we're okay. That nothing happened." I reached for her hand. "Then don't." She didn't pull away. We stood in silence before she spoke. "You make me feel things I've never let myself feel. Not with anyone. It scares me." "I'm scared too," I admitted. "But I'm more scared of losing you." For a moment, neither of us moved. Then she stepped closer, slowly, like testing if the world would shatter. When she placed her hand on my chest, over my heartbeat, it was like she was grounding herself. And then she kissed me. This time it wasn't hesitant. It was desperate, hungry, full of every moment we'd held back. She pulled away first, breathing hard. "We're alone this weekend. They're going to the lake house." I didn't ask what she meant. I already knew. That Friday evening, after they left, I found her in the living room in one of my old shirts, curled up on the couch. Her legs tucked beneath her, eyes flicking up at me as I entered. "Movie night?" she asked, as if everything was normal. "Sure," I said, my voice barely steady. We picked a film but didn't watch it. Not really. Our hands found each other beneath the blanket. Her head found my shoulder. And somewhere between the second act and the credits, our lips met again. What followed wasn't wild or reckless. It was slow, careful, reverent. We explored each other's boundaries, unsure but trusting. "I don't want to hide anymore," she whispered, her fingers tracing circles on my chest. "Me neither," I said, brushing hair from her face. "But we have to be careful." Her smile was soft but sad. "We're walking a tightrope." "I know," I said, "but I'd rather fall with you than stand without you." That night, we stayed up talking, tangled in blankets and quiet promises. We talked about everything. Her dreams, my fears, how we never thought life would take this turn. She fell asleep in my arms. And for the first time in my life, I felt like I belonged somewhere. When the sun rose, it felt like it was rising just for us. But peace doesn't last forever. The next morning, while I was making coffee, her phone buzzed. A message lit up the screen. "MOM, we're coming home early. Dad's not feeling great. Be there in 2 hours. ***. Panic flickered across both our faces. We scrambled, put the blankets back, cleaned everything, reset the house like nothing had happened. But something had happened, and now we had to pretend again. When they walked through the door, smiling and relaxed, we played our roles. Stepbrother, stepsister, roommates by marriage. But every glance we stole said otherwise. And deep down, I knew /. The secret between us wouldn't stay buried for long. / to be continued. Secrets are like pressure cookers. You can hold them in, tighten the lid, keep the heat low. But eventually, the steam finds a way out. For weeks, Elena and I danced on the edge of discovery. Careful glances, whispered conversations, moments stolen in the shadows of our shared home. But the closer we got, the harder it became to pretend. We weren't just step-siblings anymore. We weren't just roommates. We were something else. Something deeper. Something dangerously real. It all came to a head one Sunday morning. I woke up to raised voices. Downstairs. My heart sank before I even heard the words. I ran down to find Elena standing in the kitchen, eyes brimming, lips trembling, and her mother holding her phone, visibly shaken. My dad stood nearby, silent, face pale. Her mom's voice trembled. You lied to me. Both of you. This is not okay. I didn't know what she had seen. Maybe the texts. Maybe the photos. Maybe Elena had finally cracked under the pressure and told her the truth. Elena, I said, stepping forward. She looked at me, and for the first time in days there was no fear. Only resolve. I told her, she said, her voice clear. Everything. Her mom gasped, like the words had struck her. How could you? You're step-siblings. We're not related by blood, I said. And we didn't plan this. We didn't choose it. But we can't ignore it anymore. My father finally spoke. It's not ideal, but they're adults. Elena's mother snapped. It's betrayal. Of family. Of trust. I never meant to hurt anyone, Elena said softly. But I won't apologize for loving someone who makes me feel whole. There was silence. Deep. Suffocating. My heart pounded in my chest like a ticking bomb. Then, unexpectedly, her mother sat down. Defeated. She looked at both of us, exhausted. I just wanted better for you, she whispered. Not this mess. Elena stepped forward and held her hand. I know, but maybe better isn't always what you expect. Sometimes it's the thing that scares you most. The conversation didn't end in hugs or full acceptance, but it ended in quiet understanding. Days passed. The air in the house changed. Heavier in some rooms. Lighter in others. Her mom didn't smile as much, but she didn't yell either. My dad took the news in stride, talking to me in private about how love often breaks rules before it builds bridges. Elena and I agreed to slow down. Not because we had doubts, but because we wanted to do it right, openly, respectfully, without deception. We moved out together a month later. Found a small place across town near her university. It wasn't glamorous. The plumbing groaned. The walls were thin. But it was ours. We cooked dinners together. Watched bad TV. Held hands without flinching. And when the world questioned us, we didn't crumble. We explained calmly, truthfully, with no shame. Not everyone understood. Some whispered. Some judged. But most forgot after a while. And those who loved us stayed. Years later, I still remember the first night in that apartment. Elena curled beside me, blanket over us, a tiny smile on her lips. We broke every rule, she said. Yeah, I replied. But maybe some rules are meant to be rewritten. She looked at me with those sky-colored eyes. Thank you for choosing me. Even when it was hard. Always, I said. Every time. Moral of the story asterisk. Love doesn't always arrive in the package we expect. Sometimes, it walks through the door wearing a name we're told we shouldn't feel anything for. But real love, honest, patient, and kind, asks for courage more than permission. In a world full of boundaries and labels, the bravest thing we can do is choose the truth, no matter how complicated. Because love, when it's real, doesn't break us. It rebuilds us. And sometimes the ones we're told not to love are the ones who teach us how.